Hello, 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 friends of the sun, as we jokingly say here in Germany. Today is the second big video on my YouTube channel, and today we're gonna focus on the Japanese language school. I myself lived 7-8 months in Japan on a working holiday visa and went to Japanese language school for around about close over half a year. So I would kind of say to myself that I'm a little bit decent on that topic. And in the first video, we discussed on how to apply for the working holiday visa. So we kind of start from here and think you already got it or already handed in all your documents. So we go one step further. The Japanese language schools. What kind of schools are there? What kind of is the difference between these different models of school? And what model should be the right thing for you? So let's dive into it. I kind of want to give you in the beginning a little bit of a small summary on kind of like how the teaching style will look like, on like how many classmates you have, on roundabout what your daily average lifestyle will be. And after that, I'll give you like a detailed information on how I see this kind of school. So this will not really be like a really objective way of seeing. I'll give you the objective description, but in the end this will be pretty subjective because I will just tell you on how did I experience it, what was it for me, and what would I choose in the end. And of course, really important factor is of course the money.
I like money.
So for the Japanese language schools, we actually have three different kind of types, I would rather say. The first one is the bit more traditional way of teaching. You have a teacher who's standing up front in the class and doing a bit more of the upfront teaching. So they're doing the whiteboard, they're doing a lot of talking, you need to make your own notes, do your stuff, you get a lot of homework and a lot of documentaries, right? So the teacher will just hand out a lot of papers, you will do them maybe for like half an hour on your own, and at the end everyone will discuss the results. These classes tend to be on the bigger side of the end, so I would kind of really compare them to like high school and middle school. So we probably have like 20 to 30 classmates. With this many classmates, you will definitely find someone who is matching you, so you'll find good friends and people that you even want to hang out like in the breaks or even after school.
Till next time.
Sure thing, boss.
Have tea with me. It'll be fun.
But I'm not a girl.
I think this is a big plus because you have a lot of different options on people, and even like from all over the world, so really huge variety on people that you meet every day, which also is kind of funny for the teaching or like the class in general. But at the same time, the class is way more noisy, right? And there's way more people, so it feels a bit more than the actual teaching style that maybe even all of us got a little bit upset about over the years, right? We just went to school for so long, you're kind of a little bit fed up with this kind of teaching style. And there's not so much focus on you, on yourself. So the teacher will, as I've said before, will do most of the upfront teaching, and you're kind of supposed to do your notes and the stuff on your own. Of course, after you've written down your answers on the paper, you can probably raise your hand and be like, hey, I want to read mine. Then you can read it out loud, and the sensei will kind of like talk with you and everyone else on how good the answer is, give you some improvements and stuff. But with like 20, 25, 30 different students, the chance that you are always the one who's kind of like participating in the topic is not that high. If you're the type who wants to be a bit more shy in the background and just kind of like get all the input in, I think it's kind of good and nice. But if you kind of want to be more active, I think the later coming school types are way more suited to you. Also, what I think is really important, those bigger classes, bigger schools really tend to focus on the JLPT, the Japanese Language Proficiency Test, which is our European way of evaluating your language skills. Here in Europe, it's like the A2, A1, B2, B1, C2, C1 tier system. And in Japan, with the JLPT, you have like N5 is the lowest and N1 is the uppest. There are a lot of people who will come to Japan to get a work holiday visa in the future. In these kind of classes, there are a lot of people who wish for a working visa for Japan. And to get a working visa for like a proper company, a proper job, you need at least, it's kind of like the thing that everyone's talking about, at least N3, but for most of the jobs you need N2. So a lot of these schools really dig down on the JLPT test. Of course, there are different levels, but they'll dig down on the JLPT test and kind of like everything revolves around this. But the JLPT test only revolves around hearing reading and writing. So there's no actual like talking with like someone else in this kind of JLPT exam. So you're missing out on a lot of like how to actually have a conversation. You will learn like grammar, need to read a lot of, need to write a lot of stuff, especially also like in kanji. But in the end, if you kind of learning Japanese only for yourself, as for example I did, you miss out on a lot of talking. What is a really important side note, the bigger classes who revolve around the JLPT tests, there come a lot of like Chinese and Taiwanese people who were actually there to just get the working visa in the future. But the Chinese and Vietnamese people, they're really good already at the kanji, because like from the get-go they're way ahead of us, like especially the Chinese, because the kanji, the Japanese kanji, are just copied like way back then from the Chinese, or like brought over to Japan. So in China the pronunciation of the word is different, but the meaning is most of the time kind of similar or even really the same. For example, like the kanji for tea, which means tree, is like in Chinese whatever you would call it, but it's the same meaning. So when the teacher is kind of like expecting you all to get all the kanji knowledge done for the JLPT test, for example, they will probably do, from what I've heard from other friends, is like 15 to 20 kanji every single day that you should need to learn. But if you're in a class where like 80% is Chinese or Vietnamese, and they're like way already ahead of all the kanji, and they were just look at them, they were like, yeah, I already know I already know the meaning. They will spend less time. And even when you're kind of like discussing kanji in class, the teacher will be like, today's this and this and this. And everyone is like, yeah, I know, go next, go next, go next. And you're like, well, damn, I didn't even know the 5 first ones. So it's kind of getting really hard for you. And there are a lot of schools who really focus on like these Vietnamese and Chinese students, from what I've heard. And you can read a lot about it in the internet. There are some people who really ended up in like classes with 95%. Sometimes I even read that there was like the only single European Western foreigner in those kind of classes. And with this topic especially, you will kind of end up a little bit lonely, but usually people tend to stick to their own groups. So there's like a class which consists of 90% Chinese people. These Chinese people can speak to each other in Chinese. They have their own Chinese culture in common. So after school, they will hang out all together. After like mid and lunch breaks and stuff, they will hang out with each other. Of course, if you're an outgoing person, you can always come and include in those groups, but it will get way harder, and it is way harder than you have an actual class which is more oriented to Western style people. I think this is like the most important thing that you kind of need to know about these schools. But there are also schools who really focus on the JLPT, but have way more European and like American people out there. But you really need to do a little bit of your own learning. For example, I have had a friend who was like 4 or 5 months in, I think it's called ICJ school in Tokyo, and he said it was nice. It was nice. It's a bit like the upfront can be boring, can get dry over time, because you just have someone standing there and doing upfront teaching. So you kind of really need to do the motivation part on your own, to stick to it, and you don't make your notes and do everything the best you can. But if your goal is probably get a JLPT passed as soon as possible, I think this is the right thing to you. Because in classes and like in the preparation time for the JLPT upcoming tests, you will do like a test which is 80% kind of like looks super similar to the actual JLPT test in the end, with just like different topics and stuff. So they really just try to get you past it, but don't really improve your Japanese skills, your like speaking skills especially. And from what I've experienced, this was probably for me like the most scary thing. I have met people in Japan living there, and even passed the JLPT N2. And as we said, N2 is like one less than N1, and N1 is the opposite you can get. And you would kind of expect from them, if they have like B2 or B1 in Germany here, you would really expect from them that they're rather fluent in language. But I don't know how, but those people passed the test, but couldn't stand up with like someone on talking level who just did a bit more prioritizing on talking, because it's just reading, listening, and writing. In these kind of schools, you have the lowest cost per head, because like the classes are so big that the like actual cost in comparison is lower because like everyone is paying, and the more heads you have, kind of like the more people you have, the less it will cost in the end. But they're still really pricey. Usually most people tend to take like a 3-month course, and I'll also try to compare everything to like a 3-month course. If we will now look, and I've asked my friend who also went to one of those kind of schools, he will said it is something like about 1,200, and like the bit more pricey ones are a bit like 1,500 euros for 3 months of Japanese language schools. These 3 months include really every single day, Monday to Friday. Of course, you have the weekend off, and school time. Usually it's in the end like 5 to 6 hours per day. You get homework, of course you can hand it in, you get it graded and stuff, and they really do everything for you, and it's the most cheapest version. Okay, now that we got this out of the way, we will go with number 2. The second type of school. This one is a bit more private oriented, but still really similar to the one before. You still have a normal class, but the student amount is way less. Like from my experience, I went to the Genki Jacks in Tokyo and to the Meiji Academy in Fukuoka, and they're kind of like both have written on their website that they try to keep the classes as small, like people size, on what they can, so that you in the end, the student, get as much attention from the sensei, from the teachers, as possible. And as I said, I myself, I went to those kind of schools, and in my 3 months in Tokyo, I had probably from the longest amount of time a class with 2 classmates. So in the end, we were like 3 students and 1 teacher. The teacher's always like changing during classes, or like the next class a different sensei and stuff, to keep it a bit more fresh and updated. But you have like your 3 mates. So usually what you can read online is like a student amount between 3 and 8 people maximum per class. If you have this smaller amount of class, everyone gets way more focus. Still in class you get a paper, you need to fill it out on yourself for like 20 minutes, but then if you will compare it, it's not like please raise someone his hand and then you kind of like can talk. No, it's actually like I will read B, the person next to me will read C, and the last one will read D. And you will like always get immediate feedback, even like from your classmates and from the sensei. You're kind of really always part of the talking, and it feels way more that you're a part of it, which was for me really important, because I myself, I will keep it straight, I would wish to work in Japan for the future and live there, but realistically it was like the working conditions are not the best, but this is like a different topic for another video, are not the best. So I myself just learned Japanese for my own personal sake. I really want to speak Japanese and understand more. So you get a bit more focus on yourself every single day. You're talking to the teachers, you're talking to your classmates in Japanese, and even way more because there's way more focus on you, because there are only 3 to 8 students in total. Of course, this will get more pricey. As we said before, kind of like the per head ratio is getting up, so they're wanting more money from you. And I can tell you, I've spent for the 3 months in the Genki Jacks in Tokyo for, the 3 months, around about, I think, 2,000 or 2,200 euros. But I personally would say this is the best thing for everyone who goes a bit more for the sake of their own personal development, also having a fun time, especially like if you're on the working holiday visa, you're a bit more free to go on what you're doing. But they're kind of like still strict. They give you homework, you need to hand it in, they have tests. They're kind of low-key still forcing you to learn as much as you can, but it's not as stressful and not as packed as the other classes, and you feel more a part of it, and I think that was a wonderful thing. Also, big greetings to Alex and Betu, who were my 2 classmates in the school in Tokyo. We had a wonderful time because like you see each other every single day for such a long time, so you end up going together for lunch or even doing like day trips after school. So really was a wonderful time, and you will meet wonderful people, pretty sure. So the last thing we have is the private lessons, so the one-on-one, only you and a teacher. I think this is a bit more for the advanced people because it gives you a lot of freedom, right? You're paying way more money. From like what I've checked online, there are people on like websites like Preply and stuff. You can find someone who does it for like 10 euros for like 50 minutes is usually the term, or like 1 hour. And there are people who have actual like certificates that they're eligible for teaching you Japanese in a good way, or have like a long not tradition, but like experience in teaching Japanese. So they will take up even like 50, 60 euros per hour. So it can get more pricey, but you can also get it a bit more cheaper. But on these private lessons, you have a bit more, especially hard focus on yourself. There's not the, I would call it now like curricular, the kind of schools that we discussed before actually kind of have like a plan on, they will teach you through it. Usually you have like a kyokasho, like one of those grammar books, and you kind of work your way through it. You can of course do this with this private teacher as well, but you have so much focus on your own that I would really recommend you start with a normal kind of school, the 1 or 2 first options that we have. Learn as much Japanese as you can, and as you go better, I would kind of like say from the upper N4 level or from N3 upwards, I can really recommend you a private teacher, because then you can kind of like just look at the grammar books that you have done before, and you can just like look through with them, and you will definitely see stuff that you have did in class but didn't really can use on your own, on your talking or whatever it is, and they can just give you a perfect thing and you can work it out. And what is your best like learning and teaching style? You can really do so much freedom because it's only you, and like the whole class only revolves around you. So I think it gives you the most freedom, and you should use that freedom to make it best work for your own like learning environment. But the learning environment, you kind of need to get this information out of yourself already. So kind of like, what is your weakness in like Japanese? Is it like kanji? Is it reading? Is it talking? What do you want to focus about? You can also go to school normally and get a 2 times per week a private teacher as well, who's only focusing on you with like speaking. So you have all your grammar that you have like in reading and writing in the basic school, but then have like a teacher who's just focusing with you on speaking, so that you end up even improving that on the same amount. Would be a cool idea, but I really recommend try to do this when you're already a bit higher up. In the beginning, it's super nice if you have a bit more bigger class, because you have classmates that you can also feel free to make mistakes, because kind of like all the other people are also making mistakes. It makes you a bit more stress-free in your heart if you're like uncertain about saying wrong things or stuff. And yeah, if you kind of like already filled out what is a bit more your strength and what you really want to focus down on, I think the private lessons come in really handy. Also, I only took private lessons on the website Preply, actually, was like well back then, even before I went to Japan, which is also recommended. At the beginning I was just like, give it a try, but they're really cool, nice people. And I would especially say for like just a newbie or just getting your tippy toes in the water, go with someone who's like the most cheap, because those people usually don't have any certificates and they're just doing it as their hobby, but they're super normal people, right? They're not like a sensei or stuff. Maybe they're even just a student on their own, and they kind of try to make a little bit of side money for their own, and they put in a lot of effort, and it feels really familiar with these kind of people. I think it was a wonderful thing. And for private people, I have 2 people to recommend. The first one is Yukiko. She's actually like also a friend of mine. We've met in Fukuoka, and she has a Preply account. If you're interested, please check this one account out. And if you want a bit more actual like sensei approved, like Japanese approved person, I can recommend you the Koto no Ha Japanese language school. The sensei that I've met, Nanami sensei, I've met her in the school in Fukuoka actually. She's working there as a part-time or as a freelancer, but she has her own Japanese language school. I've met her there. She's a wonderful, super nice person. Like everyone loves her, really. And yeah, I kind of wanted to bit more to improve my own learning while being in the class. So we did outside of the normal everyday learning, just private lessons, and it was a wonderful time. I can really recommend it to you. They do online. So even if you're not in Japan or not living in the city that they are living in, you can do it online with no worries. These were the 3 kind of types of schools that are available. But one thing which is really important, there are a lot of people who just don't only want to go on the working holiday visa and do it a bit more on their free time. There is also the student visa. The student visa gives way more strict regulations on how you need to treat your own like working and living style and learning style. So you can stay in Japan, but there are really like some criteria that you need to fulfill. It's like, from what I've heard, it's like you need to attend like 80% of all classes. If you will fall below like 80% attendance rate at your classes, then your student visa can get revoked and you actually need to leave Japan. So you need to be a bit more stressful on that. So you really need to focus more on that. And even your test results are rather important. You kind of need to always be over also like 80-85%, kind of like do a good grade, not like excellent, but good grade, at least be above average, to kind of show the government that you're really sticking with the student visa and doing a good thing, so that you can keep it. If you're like falling below the 80% attendance class or really not going overall in the tests, then it can get revoked and you need to go back to your own country, which is really important. And these schools as well, like the ones who really support these student visas because they have these more strict regulations, are rather strict with their teaching styles. As I said before, a bit more the upfront teaching style, a bit more the classic, bit more old school way of teaching, and this can get harsh. Sometimes if like for the people, for example, as me, you were just there because you want to learn Japanese, because it's your hobby, I cannot recommend go you to one like of these JLPT exclusive schools or like focus on schools and the student visa schools. The pace is rather high because they need to stick with it. But if you just want to have a good time and everyone else is really giving their best to pass a test for like their future living in Japan or something, they have maybe a way bigger motivation than you who just wants to have fun and have a nice time in Japan, especially for those kind of people. As for myself, as I did, you should go with a school who is more on the relaxed side. So now, to summarize it, to sum it all up, I think it really, in the end, still as usual comes down on what you want to do. If your goal is to get a JLPT test passed as soon as possible, go with the stricter ones, the hard focus on it. If you have a student visa, your choices are already really limited because not a lot of schools do the student visa courses because they have like special regulations, and like the country of Japan kind of needs to get them a stamp of approval that they're kind of like eligible for a school that is viable for the student visas and stuff. But yeah, it comes down to your own motivation on how you want to use your time. As I said, I really was trying to live my life, experience Japan to the fullest, like going out, making friends, seeing different cities and places, going on trains, and just had a wonderful time. It wasn't for me like actually on stressing myself. So I went with the bit more freedom option, the Genki Jacks in the beginning, who gives you a bit more like a curricular and this is how we do it, and super good for beginners, I would actually say. And then I went to the Meiji Academy, which gives you a lot of freedom, which I thought was a wonderful idea. So kind of think about yourself. What do you want to do? If you want to have more freedom, just enjoy your time. I would really recommend you going to one of those schools with smaller classes. You have way more focus and you feel really involved in everything around it, and you get more focus on yourself. You can talk to the teachers more. And if you're in the advanced level, then you should definitely try to add a private lesson, or even consider not going to a Japanese language school every single day. Take a private teacher, but not in comparison like 5 hours as the real schools. Go for like only 2 hours a day. Meet them every single day in a cafe or do it online, and they can also give you tons of homework if you wish to. They can review it on the next day and stuff with you all together, and they can really focus on what you want to achieve then, right? If you already have your basics down, you can focus on new grammar, review grammar, only talking, only reading, only kanji, whatever it is, maybe even business Japanese to kind of give you a good preparation for upcoming job talks or job hunting. I think it's a wonderful thing. So, as always, guys, I'm really thanking you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please click the like and write me a comment. So right, this account is still so small. I'm really actually really happy for every single comment. So please feel free to ask something. I will help you out as much as I can. Until then, see ya, stay healthy, and see you in Japan, I guess. Bye bye. Oh, yo, by the way, I kind of need to show you. I bought it like in Japan this year. I was there for vacation only this time, but look at this. I'm like the biggest sucker of Evangelion, if you would probably guess from the picture behind there. And look at me. Everyone who's not like a big Evangelion fan, yeah, fuck you. It's like the Nerf logo. And now, look at it. Damn. Damn. Cringy anime boy. Yeah, I know, but it's wonderful. Look at it. Damn. Please don't look at my ass. It's hazukashin desu yo. Okay. See you guys. Love you. Bye bye.
はじめまして。俺はスライムのリムル。悪いスライムじゃないよ。
Hey guys, this is the currently editing version of me from the future. I was just looking through the footage and was really unhappy with the freedom talk that I kind of did, the free speech that I did at the end, kind of giving you an explanation on how my experience was, like completely everything that I've experienced, like from the start to the finish. So we're gonna do this now a separate time. I was just like actually like 5 minutes ago video editing still on my PC. So I was just actually in my really chill out clothes, but I was just like, yeah, fuck it, we need to make it new. So here we go. So I want to start from the get-go and give you as much details as possible that you can have and get an idea of what I was thinking about and what I was searching about for myself. And then you can maybe even think about, okay, what do I want to get out of the experience? What is my personal highlight and what do I want to achieve with the Japanese schools, so that you can at the end kind of select what is best for you. So I wish, but I do not plan on working in Japan for the future. So for me, the JLPT tests weren't that important. So I, from the get-go, already decided I will go with a working holiday visa. I don't need a student visa. And for me, it's a bit more free time and discovering myself, embracing myself, and having a fun time over there in Japan. So while I did my own research all the time, I also found out pretty quick that there are super many of those JLPT classes with like a lot of Taiwanese and Chinese students, which sounds a bit harsh, but you maybe as a European or American don't want to end up with, especially like in the worst cases that you're like the last one, the only one. So I was searching a bit more and reading a lot of reviews online, and I actually wanted to start in Osaka, my first 3 months in my Japan experience, my Japan traveling. But the only school that I kind of found and was appealing to me was a school which was especially like this. So I have like a huge amount of, I think it was like Taiwanese students who would come there, and I read a lot of actually like reviews that there tend to be too much, right? Too much sounds really harsh, don't take it in a negative way. I kind of thought, okay, maybe this is not the best decision for me, and did all my other research. I kind of really wanted to find one in Osaka, but I couldn't. So I actually ended up with the ones in Tokyo, because Tokyo is like the biggest city in the whole world, so you have huge variety of different schools, and I found the Genki Jack school. Also, just to mention you, there is a service called Gogo Nihon, which they will do kind of everything for you, and they even like help you get the working holiday visa and actually will do the applying stuff for you. Really nice, and it's not even costing you anything. So if you want to keep it simple, you can actually also kind of contact them, but they have a special contract with a lot of different schools, so that they will in the end get kind of like their money from the schools if you will make your appointment with them with the school. But due to these contracts, they do not support every school. And as lucky as I am, or maybe as picky as I am, I actually found, like in review-wise and whatever else I was reading online, I found the Genki Jack's version, and it was not supported by the Gogo Nihon servers. So I kind of thought about myself, okay, will I go the safe route and follow the Gogo Nihon servers, or will I actually just throw everything away and will do it on my own? And I decided to do everything on my own, and I can tell you, it's not that hard. You will just like contact them on their formula, they will write you back, and they ask all the different easy topics, so not a big hassle. And then you kind of need to decide on how long you're gonna stay, can ask your questions and how is it, blah, 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 and they will get it answered. Also, like these school support that you have, like my experience from the Genki Jacks in Tokyo and the Meiji Academy in Fukuoka. Wonderful people working there, actually. They're so helpful. Like, a lot of people actually say they're like the most lovely persons in those organizations and those schools, even better than the teachers. Feel free to contact them, feel free to ask them like a millionth time as I did. So yeah, feel free to do that. So now that I decided to go to the Genki Jacks and did most of my preparations, did the talking with them, did the contract for 3 months, paid already. So also again for your information, it was about 2,000 to 2,400 euros, I think, for the 3 months. I did everything that I could and I was ready. Okay, so much in the future, I arrived in Japan and had an appointment with one of the senseis, one of the teachers from the Genki Jack. So I went to the school and I was set in a room and needed to wait for the teacher. And we did kind of like an evaluation test for my Japanese. To be honest, besides like having online classes, like 101 online lessons with some people that I met on Preply, it was my first time a little bit feeling the stress and you need to perform now as good as you can, because it's kind of like evaluating on which class you're gonna get. And I was kind of like a little bit afraid that all my work that I've done until now is not as good and I will kind of like be put in a completely beginner class. But I did not have the best feeling, obviously. So I was there, felt a little bit stressed out. Maybe she was even a bit too strict for my own personal sake. I was new to Japan, didn't know how everything was. Felt a little bit intimidated, to be honest. I don't know, the stress situation, you sometimes then forget like basic words that you normally know. For example, it's super embarrassing. But at that time, I actually forgot the word moto, which means more. It's like we just talked about temperature and I was kind of wanted to say that I wished it was more hotter or more cool. I don't remember anymore in the moment. But I couldn't because I didn't, but it
That you had you could you do you would
but I didn't. 恥ずかしいな. Okay, no, it was a little bit harsh, to be honest. I didn't have the best experience on this evaluation test, but we continued and I think 2 more days passed and then my actual day in school started. I went there, met my 2 wonderful classmates that I will have for the time. It was Betul and Alex. Really big shout out to them. We had the biggest and fun times together and everything will start. You will have basic school from Monday to Friday. The weekend is off and it will really feel a little bit like basic school. You have like a, is it called curricular or just like a plan for the lessons? So you have like grammar, talking lessons, reading lessons, kanji lessons, everything is just like, you have a 50-minute block of lesson, small break, next, small break. And there are 2 different kind of day themes. You will either have morning classes or evening or late classes. The morning classes started from 9 to I think 1, maybe even 12:30, and the afternoon classes I think started then from like 1:30, maybe from 2. They maybe started from like 1:30 or 2 even, and then went until 4:30 or 5. I'm actually not that sure anymore. But yeah, it was kind of the same. Sometimes you had like for 1 whole week, you had the morning classes and then on the other week you had the evening classes, which just everything was a bit more flexible. You got your schedule for every single day on the last Friday of the week, for kind of like the upcoming week. And it was cool. Everyone appreciated the morning classes because then you were done with school with like 12, like lunchtime. So we go out with your friends, just eat together and then could go anywhere you want. So everyone was kind of always wishing for the morning classes because you can afterwards have way more time to go somewhere, do some experiencing, do some sightseeing and stuff. If you have the late classes, kind of like most of the people tended to sleep a bit longer than usually and maybe even longer than it is necessary, just staying in bed doing nothing, because kind of like you couldn't freely go around because you needed to be in school at around like 1, so you couldn't go that far off the city. Every single day you get homework that you needed to do and you need to hand in that on the next day. The teachers will grade that and hand it back to you, give you some improvements and do you like it's not like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 system that we had, for example, here like in Germany. It is a percentage system. So you have like 0% and 100% and you kind of should always try to go over 80. Every 2 weeks, I think we had a test So they kind of will even say, next week we will have a test. And then everyone was like really frightened. Oh my God, a test. It sounds super hard, and it actually is. I would kind of say they're not easy tests. Sometimes they're a bit confusing, but it's really good because it forces you to sit your ass down at home and review all your studying. The homeworks you can get done rather quickly. They were probably around 3 to 4 pages every single day. It's like printed out papers that you will get. So you've done that, and then the test was also, I think it was always around about half an hour, maybe even 40 minutes that we did the test. And you'll get a grade as well. And you definitely also should try to be above 80%, otherwise you will get scolded a little bit. But they were not that hard, to be honest. It's like not impossible level. You can really do it if you put in a little bit of effort and stuff. It's super nice, and I kind of think now I'm grateful for these tests, because especially in the beginning, you need to be active and put in as much effort as you can, and kind of like the struggle and the forced feeling of I need to learn for a test can really help there sometimes, especially in the beginning times. So we started out with the Minna no Nihongo 1 book and worked this completely through, and then started with the Minna no Nihongo 2 book. And I think we went around chapter 25, maybe, probably round about to the half of the second one. Then I graduated in school, and just right now while I'm telling you this, I think it's kind of funny and maybe even interesting, because everyone in the Genki Jacks, if they are leaving the school, so you have your Sotsugyo, they'll need to do a free speech. Not specifically like a free speech, but you should do a speech. There are some people who were really just doing the minasan arigatou gozaimashita. Especially also it really comes down to your level and how long you stayed in school. But the school really encourages you to do as much as you can and try to do it, but you will do it in front of everyone in the whole school. So this can be embarrassing for some people. It's not as easy. I personally don't have the biggest problem standing in front of other people, so I try to do it. And maybe just giving you an example, I will show you now the video like some friends took of me on my Sotsugyo speech, and you can evaluate my Japanese after being in a Japanese language school for 3 months. たくさん教えてくれてたくさん勉強しました。日本語は上達してきていると思います。本当にありがとうございます。毎日授業は楽しかったんですが、漢字が大変でした。新しい友達できました。アレックス・ベトゥとアクセル本当にありがとうございます。一緒にいい時間過ごしましたね。ベトゥル・ウォルフカットの日本人の探すの頑張ってね。時間があったらぜひ皆さん福岡に遊びに来てください。そしてビアンカさんとサキさんにはたくさんお質問をし、いろいろなお世話になりました。本当にありがとうございます。バイバイします。Due to the bit more strict curricular and the tests and stuff, it is a wonderful environment for people who are actually just starting with learning Japanese. For like complete beginners, I think is a wonderful class. It's a bit more strict, especially then compared to the Meiji one that I went to Fukuoka, that we're going to compare it to now. After the 3 months that I went into the Japanese school in Tokyo, I've moved to Fukuoka. In the school in Tokyo, I went to probably around about the middle of the Minna no Nihongo 2 book. If you're familiar with that, you probably know around how much grammar you have at that point. And in the Meiji Academy in Fukuoka, we worked with the Genki books, the Genki 1 and the Genki 2. The class that I got in was in the beginning of the Genki 2 book. So I kind of had an evaluation talk with one of the senseis, and they put me in my specific class. I kind of had myself was like, I think this is not the perfect level for me. I think I was a bit better than the people actually in this class. And so I was just really feeling free and was like, yo, I'm really sorry. I was kind of like looking on it for 3 days or something, and I was going to the teacher or the people who kind of like your people that you can talk to if you have questions and stuff. And I was asking them if there is a chance, like a bit more upper class for me, which suits a bit more my level. And they really, really, really tried to put me in a good spot. I've got my bit more upper class. It was still the Genki boot, but way more to the end. Had also a class again with 2 different other people. Focus was wonderful. You have every single day different teachers on like different classes, but the Meiji one is way more free. You didn't get homework every single day. If you wanted, you would still get it, but it's not more like, here's the homework, do it, we'll collect it tomorrow. There were no tests. If you wanted to have a test, they'll definitely make you a test, but you're kind of like not expected to make a test every 2 weeks. It was a wonderful experience for me. I was outgoing every single day, making new friends, talking to people, and had my routine every single day. Going to school was a wonderful time, super relaxed. The school stuff was amazing, and it was actually just the best thing I could experience. I used to go to Starbucks actually every single day and reviewed all the stuff that we did in class and learned new stuff for my own for like 3 hours after school every single day. And I really, really, really improved in the later 3 months. For me personally, the freedom was so much worth that I will now sit here and tell you, like, I think the idea of the Meiji Academy and like, you can get what you want. I mean, you're paying for it. You're the customer. You should get it. But the other ones felt a bit more like strict schools, and this was the most amazing part about the Meiji. It felt so free. You could just go to them and was like, yeah, I really don't like this Kyokasho, this grammar book. Can we use another one? And you will actually get it. Thing, I'm definitely sure. Cannot pull this off. And like the Genki Jacks, they're way stricter with like, this is how we're supposed to do it, and this is how we will do it. In the beginning, super good. If you're a bit more advanced, I think the more freedom you have, the cooler it is. After finishing the Genki book, we got this one. This book is like the worst book that I've ever worked with because the explanations in this one are rather short. And to it, always you get explanation sentences. But most of the time it's like 2 or 3. And 2 example sentences is not enough if the explanation of a grammar is pretty small. So you will kind of read an explanation about a grammar and you'll be like, huh? I really don't understand it. What does it mean? How do I use it? And you get like 2 example sentences, and maybe you don't know half the vocabulary that I use in this example sentence. It's terrible. And then you only have 2. Really worse. But we worked through this book, and at the end the teacher asked us, do we want to continue with this book, or kind of like you have questions again? Do you want to review it again? Want to work through some chapters again? And everyone was like one-handedly like, no, fuck this book. Go to the next one. It's really terrible. I cannot recommend it to you. If like a teacher is coming to you and be like, hey, we should go with this one. No, you shouldn't. I mean, the grammar in here is not that bad, but everything else, like really, the explanations are terrible. Just, I don't know. Try to avoid it, actually. So, and from that point onwards, we started with a book which was called Quartet. So around that time, my class got reduced to only 2 people. So it was me and a friend that I also made over that amount of time. And he actually wanted to focus more on kanji. So he was just like, oh, and now more grammar. Can't we just use a kanji book? So we decided together, why not? And we just went to the teacher and asked, can't we do more kanji? And this is kind of like the point where I really think the Meiji Academy shines. You get what you want. Maybe it was because we're only 2 people, but I mean, we together decided that we want it and we are the customers. So I think we also should get it if we want it. But we asked. And then immediately on the next day, of course, the teachers need a due of preparation time. We got a new kyokasho, like a new book, but completely only for kanjis. So no more grammar, only kanjis. Every single day for, I think, like the last 2 weeks he had before he even also needed to leave the school. So then after these 2 weeks, I was sadly alone, but it gave me private lessons for the cost of not private lessons. So big win-win for me. Because I had private lessons, 1 hour per day was cut down. So usually then you have like from 9 to 12:30, but then I only had until like 11:30, which is completely fair. because you now have private lessons. And I was so glad I have private lessons because my kanji is shit. I wanted to be in Japan to experience Japan, make like Japanese friends, and I really hard focused on like talking to make that experience for me. And in order to get more words in it into me, more grammar into myself, into my head, I really tried to put in as less effort as I could into like kanji, because you just need to sit at home for like 1 hour and write them down over and over again. And in like this amount of time where I can probably learn 5 to 10 kanji, I can learn like 30, maybe even 50 new words in like an hour. So I was like, really, this is not working out for me. Maybe my brain is just really bad with kanji, because I would kind of say about myself, I'm really good at like hearing technique. Also, like when I'm learning new words and stuff, I always like read them out loud to myself, because this really helps me memorizing it. But it's really hard for kind of like combining this kind of method with like writing something down on a paper. I mean, yeah, I can write it down and read it out loud at the same time, but it's way harder for me. It takes way more time. So I decided to go with my strong points and focus on words and improved my talking as much as I can. Now that I had the complete freedom in classes, I also was doing way more like free talking with the senseis about my whole private life, their private life, what was going on, advice for dating and whatever, and really just had an amazing time with them. And yeah, I think this is actually the best part about Yameji Academy, because you have so much freedom. Maybe I was a little bit lucky that I always had super small classes, because I think for most of it's like usually you have like 5 students, which is also super cool. But I mean, the less people you have, the more focus you get on yourself, and especially like private classes for not cost of a private class is the best deal that you can ever get. So this was really a wonderful idea for me. And sadly, I think I do not have a video of my Sutsugyo speech, of my finishing speech that I have in the Meiji Academy. But maybe I have. If I have it, こんにちは、ビグです。3ヶ月前来日しました。3ヶ月明治で勉強していました。最初福岡に住んだ時、福岡はちょっとつまらないと思いました。その時、本当に東京に帰りたかったです。でも、ここに残ってよかった。毎日学校の後でスタバにいて、そこで勉強しました。今は私の日本語は上達してきていると思います。福岡でほとんどの友達は日本人だから、毎回みんなにタメ口を使ってしまってごめんね。先生たちたくさん教えてくれてありがとう。毎日授業は楽しかったんですが、漢字は大変でしたね。そしてトネさんともエミさんにはたくさんの質問をし、いろんなお世話になりました。本当にありがとうございました。皆さんどうぞお元気で。ありがとうございます。Now we come to the most important part, because I think actually learning comes down to how much energy you put it, and you need to be consistent. I think it's not the key that you'll just be there and also at home before going to Japan, try to do in like one day 3 hours of Japanese. No, it's about consistency. Do every single day 30 minutes. Bam, way better than in one day 3 hours, because at 3 hours your brain will max out and you really will forget a lot. And also, I think the longer I was in Japanese school, of course, over time, you also get a little bit fed up. I think you really know what I mean from like high school and stuff. We went so long and it kind of like, I want to do something new, right? But at the same time, the longer you stayed in school and did your best, the better you get. Before I went to the Meiji, I had around about 3 weeks. So I finished the Genki Jacks in Tokyo, had like 3 weeks of vacation, like moving to Fukuoka time and stuff. And like after these 3 weeks of break time, I had so much new energy. I was like, hell yeah, going back to school, so nice. And I also think having a break time can be super crucial to just kind of like reset your whole day schedule and stuff, because you then be like going glad to school, be like, nice, now I can go back to school, instead of just saying, okay, tomorrow is another day of school. So I think this was also a tip if you can try to do it. Put in some vacation maybe. To summarize it all up, I'm really grateful for all my experiences. And I think consistency is key, and it is super nice to going and having the budget and having the possibility to go to Japanese language school. You should need to decide in the beginning, do you want to go like really hardcore, like JLPT, focus leveling, student visa level, and really focus on that because you really have a super hard goal on yourself, or you want to keep the cost as low as possible, then you should go with like the first options we have. If you want to have a bit more freedom, I definitely would say go with like the second options that I just also gave you super much information about, like the Meiji school in Fukuoka or the Genki Jacks in Tokyo. Also like big recommendation for those two schools. And maybe even if you will want to step up your game, you can add to your normal day school life online classes, or even do only online lessons. So you will kind of drop out of school maybe after 3 months, depending on your level, and then do only not like 5 hours per day or 4 hours per day of like going to school, but only 2 hours per day of private lessons. Then you have way more time for your own learning, for your own like checking on everything afterwards. And I think this will be a legendary combination to bring you any further. I also did this while in the time in Fukuoka. And I wish you all the same experience. So try as hard as you can, make your wishes come true. I believe in you, and I think you should too. Don't be afraid. Also, like if you're not happy in those classes, maybe you think, oh, I'm worse than the other ones, I'm better than the other ones in your language level. Please feel free to ask the staff. They will definitely help you out. They're so wonderful people. Big shout out to like Roberto-san from the Meiji, what like legendary guy. I'm like the biggest sucker for Evangelion, and he's also a big fan. So we had like the become besties. This sums it up pretty good. Please do your own research, but feel free and just do it. Go out there, experiences, and I can really recommend you to any kind of school. Do it and follow your dream of learning Japanese. It will be a legendary and super nice experience in your life. Due to the fact that I was doing this a bit more off the basic video I have, I kind of don't know if I need to do like another outro, but for everyone who stick now maybe even half an hour longer for my free talk and everything was going on, if you're interested into more of this kind of like my free talk, what I have done and experienced in Japan, please feel free to make a comment. I think this is way easier for me, just sit my ass here and talk and talk and talk and talk, because I'm pretty talkative and I get in a mood. And the other videos also, if you have more wishes, especially like I've read a comment, someone was wishing for the housing situation, and I will try to do this the next time. Also, if you have other topics that I should cover, please feel free and put them in the comments down below. I will try to help you out and we'll make a video out of it as soon as I can. Until then, stay healthy, and I'll see you in Japan. Bye bye.